Hey everyone, this is my presentation for standard number 4, content knowledge, and I chose to use Google Slides this week. Standard number 4 states the teacher understands the central concepts, tools of inquiry, and structures of the disciplines he or she teaches and creates learning experiences that make these aspects of the discipline accessible and meaningful for learners to assure mastery of the content. My examples and non-examples this week come from my observations that I completed while working on my associate's degree. My first example of meeting standard number 4 comes from a high school calculus class that I observed. The students were learning to solve very difficult equations that required multiple steps and formulas. While I was in the class, a new formula was being introduced and the students were extremely anxious. The teacher calmed them down by helping them connect portions of the new formula to their prior knowledge and by linking the new concepts she was teaching them to familiar concepts they had already learned. This is an example of meeting performance 4D, and my picture is just of a calculus formula. I was extremely anxious being in the class observing just because math is not something that I really excel in, and I can only imagine how worried they were. The second example came from the same teacher. She was very committed to each student in her classroom. She encouraged questions. She used instructional time wisely to ensure that her kids were ready to complete their assignments on their own by the time they left her class. She was very knowledgeable of the content standards in her discipline, and she was a very good communicator and effectively communicated the concepts and her knowledge to her students using academic language that was clear and easy to understand by her learners. These practices help her meet performances, essential knowledge, and critical dispositions 4R, 4N, 4H, and 4L. And another example I have of meeting the standard comes from a kindergarten teacher that I observed. It was a very small school and there were only 2 kindergarten teachers in the building, but they met regularly to discuss the curriculum and how they were teaching lessons in their classrooms. They looked at their lessons through their students' perspectives and considered skill levels and spoke about instructional strategies that each had used in their own classroom to meet the needs of their students' varied knowledge and skill levels. Doing this helped each teacher expand their collection of explanations of the content and expand their content knowledge to keep up with the changes in the discipline. And this allowed the teacher that I observed to meet critical dispositions 4R and 4O. And for my examples of missing the standard, in one elementary class I observed the teacher lectured in whole group, then immediately switched to independent work. All questions were directed one-on-one to her while standing at her desk. There were no learning experiences in the classroom that encouraged students to ask any questions, and because they weren't allowed to discuss the content with their peers, they were not able to analyze any ideas from other perspectives to master the content. Because of the way she ran her classroom, this teacher did not meet performance 4B or 4C. And the same teacher didn't use any class discussions or small group work like I mentioned, so she did not give students the opportunity to practice or master academic language in the content area, so she missed performance 4H.